without the proper gear, to be lost in these woods last night would not have been a good thing. Alright, so I actually have some time today to do something other than just chores. And I'm going to check out some of the shorter trails. This is that spot yesterday where that rain rolled in from over there. I actually turned around and I looked and I thought, you know, that looks like rain. I didn't realize it was just like blowing in that fast. And man, it came fast. So this is just a beautiful lookout spot along the highway. That is Highway 60. Right there, Highway 60 from Huntsville to Ottawa, or Ottawa to Huntsville. And it cuts through the park, and it's just a really beautiful drive, and that's sort of the main corridor. All the major campsites are along this highway, and there are sort of at the north end of the park, there's a couple of other campgrounds back there, and there's obviously backcountry camping, but most of the backcountry places you can access from along this highway. That out there is a beaver dam, or actually not a dam, a home. I don't know what they call them. That one has enough growth on it that it's probably actually not lived in. So the way you can tell if a beaver dam is lived in is because of the amount of growth, like grasses and greenery that are growing on it. If it's bare, then it's lived in, but if it's got grass growing on it like this one, then it's probably abandoned. And what they say is that they'll actually abandon it for a couple of years or a few years or whatever, and then they might actually move back in later. This is a beaver meadow. If you ask me, it looks more like a swamp, but so that's what, once the beavers dam up the river upstream, then downstream it becomes a meadow like this because there's no more water. Well, as you can see, there is some water, but most of it is dammed up upstream, and we're going to go see that in a moment. Look how high the water is. That's crazy. It's not normally this high. Ooh-wee. That's like half an inch between the boards and the water. Yikes. So a couple of years ago, a friend and I were out here in the end of May long weekend. Might have been, yeah, I think it was May long weekend. And we still found snow in places along the trail here. Not so this time. Of course, it's October. It could be snowing though. I have woken up to snow on Thanksgiving. So anyways, I did find out what happened with the helicopter last night. So they were coming to do an extraction of some lady who broke her ankle. And the guy was trying to find a spot to land apparently. And then when he sounded like he was farther off, that must have just been him running his engine while he was stopped unloading the lady. And then, but he did still circle a couple times when he left, so I'm not quite sure what that was about. But apparently everybody's fine. Nobody froze to death last night, which is a good thing. And yeah, which reminds me actually, that same friend that I was out here with on the May long weekend, she also, turns out, broke her ankle that visit. But we thought it was just sprained or twisted or something. And so she walked on it all through this path, all through this trail and everything. And when we got back to the city, she went to the emergency and got it checked out, and it was broken. Oh man, she's one tough trooper. Now for you Israelis out there with your forests in the north, this is what a forest looks like. And this is shade. So yeah, the forests on the Shvil Israel. Actually, there were a couple of places where it was a little bit shady, but for the most part, even the forests, such as they did not offer much by the way of shade. Right now, I would love to be in those forests up on the Shvil because I am freezing. But moving and getting a move on this trail is actually helping warm me up. And there's quite a heavy climb coming up to get up to the top of the lookout point. So that will definitely warm me up. So apparently they've done some tests and studies and whatever scientific stuff they do, and figured out that it's actually the sound of the babbling brook or the water that ignites the beaver's instinct to start logging and creating a dam, which is pretty interesting. Now that is a dam. Wow, the water level is really high because it's running so heavy through this spot here, but this is one of my favorite spots in the whole park. That is a beaver dam, my friends. And this lake that it creates behind it is called Amicius Lake. And without this dam, it wouldn't be here. So this is that Amicius Lake. that was built by that dam, which is just over there behind this dead tree around the corner where that massive dam is that we just saw a moment ago. And this is the lake, and just over there you can see an abandoned lodge, and that's the word for the beaver's home when it's not a dam, of course, lodge. There's another one that's actually lived in. And there's a whole bunch of beaver lodges along this lake. So there's a couple over there and another one over there. And I'm not sure if that one is a lodge or not. It's hard to tell with the water levels so high. But there's a bird right there, and then behind the bird, actually directly behind the bird, is another lodge. Again, barely making above water because of the water levels. And then over towards the meadow over there, or the swampy, marshy area over there, there's another beaver lodge over there. And I think, if I'm not much mistaken, there's about a dozen lodges in this lake, probably more. So there's a closer view of that beaver lodge from further away, and this one's definitely lived in. Look how nice and clean it is, and pristine with no overgrowth. So I don't see any beavers. This is not really the best time for them to be out anyways. They tend to be out in the mornings and in the evenings at dusk. If the weather was nicer, I would take you the Spruce Bog Trail. There's definitely beavers over there. I've seen them. But I'm not taking you to Spruce Bog Trail this time, because Spruce Bog Trail is a muddy mess at the best of times. And with the weather being the way it has been this week, there ain't no way, no how that I'm going on that trail. So maybe next time. Hopefully the weather will be better and COVID will not be an issue and whatever. So maybe next spring or summer, we can go up Spruce Bog Trail and check it out then. One more trail for today, and this one is the Spruce Bog Trail. This one is actually accessible, so it's great for people who are older or who have mobility issues. I'm not 100% sure exactly how accessible it is, but it's all, most of it is wood boardwalk like that. So I will tell you when. Well, I'll show you if there's any tough spots as we go. But this is another short one. I didn't check how long it was. Let's see, it says here somewhere. Okay, I have to open it up. It's 1.5 kilometers, and most of it is along this kind of boardwalk. So it's very easily accessible for people with mobility issues and elderly, and if you've got kids in strollers and stuff like that. So this is nice and short and a really easy trail to do if you have issues like that or just have a little bit of time. So that's the boardwalk across the bog. Okay, there's a little bit of mud there, but other than that, so this section is not boardwalk, but it's still very nice and flat and easy terrain. So I think even with like a scooter or a wheelchair or a stroller or anything, I don't think you should have any trouble getting through this. Yeah, so here's another muddy spot because of the weather the last few days. So I take back what I said. If you're like working with a wheelchair or a scooter or something, you might have a little bit of trouble if the weather's been bad. But on the whole, it's intended to be accessible. So you should be mostly okay. Just watch out for mud spots. This is the Canadian Shield, so rocky formations like that are quite characteristic of the Shield, just huge bedrock sticking out of the ground. It's pretty impressive in places. Okay, so here's another muddy spot. Yeah, it's basically accessible, but I think you'd have a hard time, well, definitely this spot, if you were trying to get through here with a wheelchair if you didn't have assistance. Maybe during the summer when it's dry, it's probably better. I know I've been here a couple times before, and I think on the whole it was better, but I don't remember. So you'd have to, if you want to come out here, you'd have to check the conditions with somebody, with the park information officials, and find out if it's going to be muddy or not. But I mean, of course, you could come out to the impassable section and just do that part and then go back. That's always an option too, because it is really important to get out into nature, even if you have difficulty doing it. So it's so helpful. It's just so nice to be out here. And okay, not listening to the highway sounds, but that's part of the point. This is very close to the highway, so it's easily accessible in more ways than one. Okay, so just to show you exactly how easy and accessible it is to the highway, there's the highway right here, and this is the end of the trail. And then if you look out over the bog, you can see those people out there on the boardwalk. So that's where we just went. We went across the boardwalk, or across the bog on the boardwalk, and then took a walk through that spruce forest there. And then came out over here, over that little bridge. All right, 3 mini trails for a total of 5 kilometers, and the sun shining pretty much throughout. Variable cloud, I would say. That's not bad for today, for a lazy ninja. Anyways, so I'm headed back to camp to start my fire. It's actually beautiful in the sun. The sun is nice and warm, but in the shade it's still cold. Not as cold as it was earlier though. So I'm gonna go start myself a fire, and if I forgot to put my booklet away. If the fire cooperates, then we're having pesto salmon, potatoes and carrots tonight.